What the hell? It's a goddamn cougar in the car.
Oh, there's a cougar in the car. I put it in there. You got.
All right, welcome back. We got episode 10 of the Cougar Den podcast. Matt, I'm by myself today, unfortunately, because I don't know, all my friends have kids. I'm clearly the only one thinking straight. I'm just kidding. Alex and Ben both are pretty busy though with their kids. That's why they're taking care of them, doing what they got to do. Proud of them, being good daddies. Good for you guys. But for now, I'm gonna go over some of my top players under 25 years old, my top 10 specifically in Dynasty under 25 years old for all you guys. Make it a quick video or as quick as I can be, not try to talk too much. But before I do go ahead and jump in, I just wanted to obviously excuse the decor. I am traveling. I'm on the road right now for work, filming this project. I can't really talk too much about, but hopefully you guys can watch it out. It's going to be on A&E. Look for my name, Matt Bartholomew. But before we get in, obviously also wanted to drop one more thing. Like and subscribe. Make sure you keep up with the channel. We're growing, we're still getting better. We took a little break. We let things get away from us. I was also moving, so things got a little bit out of hand. But we're back. We're getting ready for the season, and we actually have a little bit of a good plan, I think, for the next few episodes. So we're going to hopefully get that back in that flow and get them back out to you guys pretty quickly. So to go ahead, just jump in. I don't want to spend too much time on the first two players just because they're really easy. And honestly, you shouldn't disagree with me on these first two players. Pretty sure they're like number 1 and 2 in almost like every rankings out there. But yeah, Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, guys. They're probably like the two best wide receivers that we've seen in the last 10 years, maybe. I mean, they're right there. Justin Jefferson, 24.3 years old. Jamar Chase, 23.2 years old. Justin Jefferson going into year 4, looking at possibly like $30 million a year as a wide receiver contract extension. Now, and then also we have, excuse me, Jamar Chase going in the year 3, I believe. Yeah, year 3. And then Justin Jefferson with the worst quarterback obviously he still has the year ahead of him too, but has almost like doubled Jamar Chase in catches and yards with 324 catches and 4,825 total yards. Now, saying that, Jamar Chase has almost the same amount of catches and has also played less games in those 2 years that he's been in the league already, has 22 touchdowns. Now, saying he also has the second pass heaviest offense in the NFL with his elite quarterback, Joey B. So these are two guys that I don't really care where you're getting them. Try to get them in every single league you're in, whether it's IDP, whether it's a redraft, whether it's Dynasty, SuperFlex. I don't really care. Try to get them. And obviously, I should have said this in the beginning, but I just want to make this clear again. This is for players under 25 years old. So if you're in Superflex, obviously Patrick Mahomes would be there, but he is not under 25 years old anymore. He is 27. I would prefer Patrick Mahomes in a Superflex over Justin Jefferson, clearly. Same thing probably with Josh Allen, clearly. But we're keeping it under that 25-year-old threshold. So Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, I don't really have to say too much about them. They're probably the two best wide receivers we've seen in this last generation, honestly. They're incredible. Get them in every single league that you can. I'm hoping he will fall to me in number 4 in my – I actually shouldn't have said that. For any of you guys watching it from that league, take that out of your ears. Nope. But yeah, so going on to number 3, we have Bijan Robinson, one of the best running back prospects we've probably ever seen. I'm not even going to say in like the last decade, but definitely the last decade, and probably we've ever seen. He's gotten comparisons of a mix of Saquon Barkley and Edgerrin James, which you can see both of them just because the athletic ability and the pass catching prowess with Saquon, and then the power and the one cut and the vision with Edgerrin James, which Edgerrin James is a little bit of an older one for maybe some of you younger cats out there, but I remember watching Edgerrin James, even though pretty young myself. But Bijan Robinson is 21.3 years old. He was the 8th overall pick this year going to the Falcons. I hate that. because I'm a Saints fan, obviously, but I love it because he has Arthur Smith there and the offense revolves around his running backs. So Arthur Smith was the offensive coordinator for, I think, 3 years, maybe, I think it was 3 years for the Titans, but he had 2 years in a 2-year span with Derrick Henry as his starting running back. And I just want y'all to guess before I actually tell you how many touches he had, because you're probably going to guess wrong in that time span. But he had 718 touches in a 2-year time span as the Titans OC. That's insane, man. Like, I'm not going to say that Bijan is going to get that exactly, but I think if he was ever going to, it's going to be with a guy like Arthur Smith. Now, I don't know if he'll be there long enough to honestly be there because I'm not truly a fan of him as a head coach yet. I don't know if he has it. And I don't know if the Falcons will want to continuously wait, especially because they are building something with some really nice pieces. But the fact that he has a place like he went to a place with Arthur Smith where literally the offense revolves around the running back. I think Bijan Robinson could be in competition for literally breaking the record for the most touches in a single season. And I'm not taking that lightly. I actually looked it up. The most touches in a single season is held by James Wilder, I believe from the Pittsburgh Steelers, if I remember correctly, with 492 total touches in a single season. I would not be shocked if Bijan got that. I really wouldn't. Like, I know that sounds kind of crazy to say, but how much, especially because they have Desmond Ridder. You got to keep that in mind. They have a 3rd round, not a rookie quarterback, but a 2nd-year quarterback who really didn't show much as a passer. His rookie year. I guess he showed that he can't make mistakes, or he can prevent himself from making mistakes is a better way to phrase that, I guess. But he didn't prove that he can be a legitimate starting quarterback in the NFL last year. So we don't know what they have at quarterback. They're going to put that offense in Bijan's hands, and they're going to let him ride it. So if you have Kyle Pitts, you have Drake London, I do believe one of those may have great years. I don't believe both of them will. Honestly, and it kills me to say this because I have Kyle Pitts, but right now I would put my money on Drake London as the guy to have over Kyle Pitts if you're going to have a pass catcher from the Falcons offense. But I'm getting off of Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson is all you're going to need from this offense. If you have him and you're rebuilding or you're a contender, you're not rebuilding anymore. You're automatically in the playoffs, and that's automatically what you It's only what you need is to be able to be a contender, is for you to be able to get in the playoffs, because once you get into the playoffs, anything can happen. Bijan is that type of player for your team. So I do also want to say this before I move on, is all 6 running backs drafted in the top 10 since 2020, not 2020, 2015 have finished in the top 15 in fantasy points per game their rookie season. Now, if you don't know, those running backs include Ezekiel Elliott, Todd Gurley, Saquon Barkley, CMC. The exceptions for that rule: Leonard Fournette, Trent Richardson. You have some busts, but Bijan is not going to be one of them. Now, going into number 4, congratulations to this guy, man. Jalen Hurts had himself an incredible year last year, and he's had himself an incredible offseason since. He signed a massive, I believe, $200 million contract with the Eagles after leading them to a Super Bowl last year. Huge congratulations to him. Love seeing these young players succeed, especially after going through so much adversity, man. Being benched for, I believe, Tua at Alabama, transferring, then, falling out of the first round, even after being a Heisman finalist, and then having to take the job from Carson Wentz. And then still, after he even took the job, still people wondered if he was even a quarterback and even belonged in the league. He couldn't pass. But then look, you surround him with weapons, and now look what happens. Jalen Hurts was an MVP candidate last year, and honestly probably single-handedly won some of your dynasty leagues. Like, if you won last year and you had Jalen Hurts, drop those teams in the comments. I want to see how many teams had Jalen Hurts in their championships last year, because there was a guy in our League of Legends team last year who, if you're watching this, I'm sorry, but you shouldn't have won. I don't like being that guy, but you should not have won. Jalen Hurts won that for you, and I don't know. Well, it also helps that he had Justin Jefferson, but it was very frustrating. You've made some questionable moves if you're watching this, and you know who you are. I'm not gonna completely throw you under the bus, but when you have that quarterback with the rushing upside, it's a different game, man. It's like almost a cheat code. It really is. It's not fair in fantasy. It just opens up so much more in terms of your points for it, and it also he just becomes like a giant vulture for the running back as well. So one thing about him that I want to obviously say, and another little congratulations I almost forgot, is that he also got his master's this year from Oklahoma. Shout out to Jalen Hurts. Dude's killing it. But he had 66% completion rate last year, 3,700 total yards, passing yards, and then 22 passing touchdowns with 6 interceptions. And he finished the year with 25.6 fantasy points per game and was a top 6 scorer at the QB position for 8 straight weeks. He had himself a hell of a year, single-handedly winning you or carrying probably teams, like in our case, in League of Legends, to the championship. And I believe fucker had like a 13-1 record or something too. It's really fucking annoying. But I'm coming for his ass. I'm gonna have Bijan. But also getting into a little bit more of that rushing upside, like I talked about. He had 165 carries last year in 2022, which was first for all quarterbacks, and then he had 139 carries in 2021, which again, first for all quarterbacks. Now he had 11 carries per game. He also had 13 touchdowns last year, which is first for all quarterbacks again, and then this is 2022, and in 2021 he had 10 touchdowns again, first for all quarterbacks. So it's really hard to beat that kind of upside, guys, when you're getting like, especially if you're in 6-point touchdown like leagues, which I believe we are in League of Legends, where you get 6 points, especially for rushing touchdowns. It's just not fucking fair, man. But going on to his yards, he also had 760 yards in 2022, 784, which is right into that elite category for your quarterbacks. If you're getting 700 yards, again, it's just not fucking fair. But what's really not fucking fair when you look at it compared to Jalen Hurts is his red zone carries. That's what really just takes him apart. 43 total red zone carries, 2.9 red zone carries per game, 50.7 rush yards per game, and 20 carries inside the 5-yard line, only second behind Jamal Williams. What the fuck? If you have Jalen Hurts, don't let him go, especially if you're in SuperFlex Leagues. He's going to win you many championships probably for the next few years. So going on to number 5, one of my favorite players, honestly, because this guy was really looked at as one of the more elite prospects that we've seen since Andrew Luck, and even before Andrew Luck. If you look at some of the prospects, he was probably the best QB prospect since, like, I think John Elway. So the really high echelon of like prospects people had Trevor Lawrence in, but coming into his rookie year, he did not perform that way. Now we can accompany this probably to the Urban Meyer experience, because that did not go well. That was a shit show, just to put it lightly. Sorry for all you Jaguar fans, but Doug Peterson last year finally had him with a breakout season, and he looked phenomenal. He was a bit boomer bust, I guess, when you look at it as a whole, but to start off, he had 6 weeks outside the top 20 where he was really kind of struggling to still get going, but he really finished strong towards the end of the season with 7 weeks as a top 6 quarterback. And then he brought that into the playoffs, where obviously they again started real slow, so that is something that they're going to have to work on, is it's not starting as slow. But 4 interceptions, I believe, in like the first half, or like maybe even first fucking quarter, who knows, but against the Chargers in the playoffs, and the Chargers go up 28-0, and then we're going into halftime like saying this shit's over. But look what happened. They came back, they rallied behind Trevor Lawrence. He rallied, never lost confidence in himself. And now they're coming into, and they got that win, and now they're coming into 2023 with even more loaded weapons, bringing in Calvin Ridley for a 2nd-round pick. They have Christian Kirk still on a big contract. They brought in back their old reliable Marvin Jones, the vet. They also have Parker Washington, a really young, interesting rookie that I actually like, that maybe we'll talk about on another episode, even though he's a late round draft pick. Evan Ingram, Britton Strain, Travis Etienne, and Tank Bigsby. So like literally loaded weapons everywhere you look. They have running backs, they have tight ends, they have wide receivers, maybe even one of the best wide receiver rooms in the NFL. But something to monitor with them is their offensive line, because they spent the first round draft pick on I actually don't remember his name, but they spent the first round draft pick on an offensive lineman because Cam Robinson is suspended for PEDs. I believe for 8 seasons. Not 8 seasons, 8 games. Same suspension that DeAndre Hopkins had last year with his Cardinals. So I believe heading into the season, Trevor Lawrence right now is like a mid-range QB1, but I believe, and I think a lot of other people are hoping and believing that he will take that Josh Allen level leap next year and be like that elite quarterback where he finishes as a consistent, like maybe QB5, QB6 or something like that, and is in that echelon of guys where you have him and you're just like, yeah, he's that guy. He is someone that I'm going to build my team around for the next 10 years. So going into Breece Hall at number 6. So this one is a little bit iffy. It might cause a little bit of a debate having him so low. It might cause a little debate because he should be lower, or who knows? I mean, this was kind of hard for me. He's 21.9 years old. He was the winner of an NFL draft because they only had drafted Israel Abanikanda, and then they still have Michael Carter and Zonovan Knight as well. But I mean, Israel is in the 5th round. There's not something that you really can depend on in terms of like long-term draft investment. But Breece Hall did tear his ACL last year after looking phenomenal as a rookie. I just don't know. When you're a running back, you already have such a short like shelf life, and your area for success is already so small. When you have an ACL, I mean, at least into my memory, the only guys that tear an ACL and then come back and look great the year after is like a Deuce McAllister and Jamal Charles, Adrian Peterson. That's it. Like in my lifetime, and if I'm wrong, please let me know in the comments, please. I love it if you can let me know of any other guys that have come back and just looked great. Maybe not even looked great. They just had at least a decent year. When you're coming back from an ACL, and this is, I mean, I'm a former athlete. I never played in the NFL, obviously. I'm not that athletic. But as a former athlete, I tore my ACL. I went through that pain, and I went through the process of coming back. And I remember how it felt to where like you literally don't feel like yourself. You have to reteach your body how to run, how to cut, how to just overall trust yourself, the balance, the contact balance, everything. And the first time you get hit. So that's all things that you have to come into and take advantage when you're thinking of a player coming off of an ACL. But I do believe in Breece Hall. I think he's a very talented player. But I do also, as like just a fair warning before I move on to number 7, excuse me, is last year, fantasy darling Javonte Williams was looked at. I don't remember if he was exactly a top 5 running back at dynasty running back, but I believe he was a top 5 dynasty running back heading into last year. Week 1 didn't look great. Week 2 didn't look great. I mean, you could also say that was because the offense, of Russell Wilson led offense, that whole offense looked fucking terrible. But and I believe tore his ACL in week 3. That's not good. Now, I'm not saying it's consensus, but a lot of people have dropped Javonte Williams outside of their top 10, and I've seen people have him like even sometimes out of the top 15. But I think more like the consensus is like top 12-ish, around that area for Javonte Williams in terms of dynasty because of that ACL. He tore it. He was on a bad year offense last year. He does have Sean Payton, so that's something to look forward to. Sean Payton is an offensive mastermind, great with running backs. So, but point is, he had that bad year, and now he's dropping in his ADP. If that's not going to happen to Breece Hall, he needs to come back and at least rush for like at least 1,000 yards, maybe like over 4 yards a carry. I'm not going to like blow the expectations out the roof, but I think he needs to play well if he's not going to drop an ADP heading into next year, or at least avoid a J.K. Dobbins style season. for him to not drop, where you could see it and, he looks good sometimes, but others you're just like, oh, fuck, like his leg is clearly not it. So, Breece Hall is somebody that you want to keep an eye on. And obviously Aaron Rodgers coming, that's going to fucking help him a lot. Like Aaron Rodgers is a future Hall of Fame quarterback. That tends to take a lot of pressure off the inside. But we're going to go ahead. We're going to take a break real quick before we hop into number 7. So go ahead. Make sure you guys like and subscribe one more time, and then we will be right back. So moving on to number 7, I have CeeDee Lamb. Now, CeeDee Lamb is 24.1 years old. He just hit that threshold and has gotten better in almost every important stat every year throughout his career, pretty much, and is honestly one of my favorite wide receivers in the NFL. And I think last year was a key for him because he established himself as a key piece of that offense and is one of the few wide receivers in the NFL where you can truly just put an entire offense on his back and it will work. Now, saying this, you still have added weapons with Cook and Gallup, plus Schoonmaker, the rookie tight end, and Brian Schottenheimer is an extremely run-heavy OC, so that's something you do have to think of. But I believe CD is talented enough, and Dak Prescott had a shit year last year, but is talented enough to where they will focus in on him, and he will be able to, having those extra weapons, I believe also will be able to allow them to move him around to find ways for them to get him open. Now, I just believe he's one of the more versatile wide receivers in the NFL. And last year he had 107 receptions, 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns with a 28% target share. And he also, by the way, had a career low in 6 goal line targets. So I believe that will go up even if the overall targets and the receptions go down. So, and still finishing with 9 touchdowns, I think double-digit touchdowns is totally in the realm of possibility, even if he doesn't hit, like, say, that 100 reception mark. And I still think a top 10 wide receiver is totally in the possibility with top 5 upside, clearly, for CeeDee Lamb. Now, with Garrett Wilson, again, not really much to say about this guy. He looked incredible last year, his rookie year, coming in at 22.8 years old. He thrived in one of the worst QB situations in the NFL, breaking multiple rookie records for the Jets organization, and also was one of the highest percentage of had one of the highest off 10 can't speak today, guys. Had one of the highest percentage of off-target throws with Zach Wilson at quarterback. Now, obviously, they got their new guy in town with Aaron Rodgers. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, Super Bowl winner. He's going to give them really some of the I'm not going to say that. Total Mark Andrews just popped into my head where I was going to say something really that sounded terrible, but I'm not going to do it. But Rodgers is not going to have of really off-target throws. He's going to go in there, give him accurate passes. And honestly, a big thing for me that really gets me excited about the Jets even more with Garrett Wilson, the fact that he did thrive in one of the worst offenses in the NFL, is that Rodgers seems actually very happy now to be in New York. If all of you remember, and I'm sure you Packers fans will, Alex, when you're watching this, I'm sure you're going to remember this, and we'll talk about this next time you come on, is that Rodgers didn't seem that happy and really connecting with his younger teammates in Green Bay. There was those reports that were coming out with Romeo Doubs saying that, like, he never spent time with Rodgers outside of the facility. And that became like a whole thing on Green Bay where you're not building this chemistry. You're not building that camaraderie with your young guys. And to me personally, I didn't think it was that big of a fucking deal. The dude's like 40 something years old. Why would he want to hang out with people who's half his age? I'm 26. I don't go hang out with, 16-year-olds. Or that's not half I don't think that's half my age, but I'm terrible at math. Again, not the numbers guy, but still, he seems to really be getting along with the mod, Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson. There's been tons of pictures of them guys just having fun at OTAs and just seems like they're getting along. So this just seems like Rodgers is happy. They're setting the whole team really up to succeed by keeping Rodgers happy because they're bringing in all of his friends, and it seems like that culture is really going to thrive there if they do continuously build that chemistry. And I think Garrett Wilson could continuously shoot up these rankings by next season as your maybe top 5 Cornerstone Dynasty player for anyone who's rebuilding or looking to contend. So I just want to throw out his stats real quick. 83 receptions last year, 1,100 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a 45.5% contested catch rate. When he goes up and gets that shit, it's his. No matter how bad, well, maybe not no matter how bad the pass is. Let's not do that. But Garrett Wilson is special. So going on to number 9, we have Jalen Waddle, who really just makes the 25-year-old benchmark at 24.5 years old. Now, I actually got into a little bit of maybe not a debate, but a conversation in our community page with one of our subscribers about this because he wasn't a bigger Jalen Waddle fan as I was. But I believe he's an elite prospect and one of the most fantasy-friendly offenses in the NFL. Now, he finished last season as wide receiver 7, even with Tyreek Hill. And with the addition of Tyreek Hill, Waddle's receptions did drop significantly from 104 in 2021 to what did he have last year? 75 last year. But one thing that I did want to note is his ADOT actually increased from 7 yards last year to 7.0 last year to 12.0 in this year. So there is an increase that he was obviously getting those longer depth targets than he was and not getting stuff so close to the yard line of scrimmage like he was in 2021. Now, one thing that's really a big factor with Jalen Waddle is there's 2 elephants in the room, really. Tyreek Hill and Tua. So Tua being his health. If Tua is not healthy, then this really affects Jalen Waddle. Last year without Tua, I believe he was wide receiver 30 in most of those games. So this is something that you really have to manage. And if Tua is not on that field, I'm not going to say you get rid of Jalen Waddle or you take him out or bench him because he has the opportunity to explode for 50 points any given game. But it would be really hard to continuously bet on him and, really try to depend on him if he doesn't have Tua. And especially as my wide receiver, or maybe not wide receiver 9, but like my number 9 overall player, cornerstone player. So with this, I do also want to say with Tyreek, as like I said, him being another big elephant, he actually said he is going to retire in 2 years. So once his contract is done, he seems like he's going to get out of there. He says he has a lot of things that he wants to do post-football. So congratulations to him. I hope he accomplishes all that. Love seeing players accomplish big things once they leave the NFL. We have to continuously support that kind of stuff. But I do want to say with that, if he goes and then Jalen Waddle, say, comes in with a healthy Tua, that's really huge. He had a 21.6 target share last year, 15.3 fantasy points per game, only 8 career goal line targets. So this is not a guy that's used around the goal line of scrimmage. So maybe it kind of limits that true elite wide receiver 1 upside. But this is a guy that will get down the field and honestly is very like Tyreek Hill almost, just burns you and is too fast to keep up with. Jalen Waddle is one of my favorite players. And if you have him, I think honestly he's a hold in Dynasty regardless, even with the Tua situation. But if you want to sell him, I'm not even considering it without 2 first-round picks. So love me some Jalen Waddle, especially in Dynasty, even in some redraft, whatever you're in. Now, for this last one, and I'm going to give you an honorable mention real quick, but my last one is a little hard, and honestly, you could switch my honorable mention with my number 10 for me personally, but for anyone that's been in the league with me, I am just not a running back guy when it comes to Dynasty. They just, they're coming and going, really. Unless I love you, like again, talked a little bit about this on our community page. Kenneth Walker, I understand Zach Charbonnet is there, but I think the talent will rise. And if anything, it will be a Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt situation. But I love him, and he's falling in drafts. So that's somebody I'm looking for, and I'll probably have a lot of this year again. But with Jonathan Taylor, I'm not a big fan. I'm really not. I mean, but the talent is there. The guy ran for like almost, I think, 2,000 yards, maybe. I think it was 1,800 actually, maybe in year 2 of the league. But his ADP has been falling steadily, but once looked like an elite prospect with the potential to be the best running back in the league. He had an awful year in 2022 filled with injuries, and he did lower a lot on his production, like I said. But new head coach Shane Steichen, man, I always have trouble pronouncing that word or name, looked great in every offense he's been in. Is really looked at as like kind of one of those new offensive gurus coming in. You know, he was with Justin Herbert, then he was with Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia. So this is a guy that's really highly thought of, and I think is going to do great things for all you Indianapolis fans. But I also really worry about the dual threat ability with Anthony Richardson. As much as I love that from a football perspective, you know, real life football, I do worry about it from a fantasy perspective on how it relates at least to Jonathan Taylor. Because like we were talking about with Jalen Hurts, if Anthony Richardson's anything like that, he is going to be the vulture of Jonathan Taylor's fantasy life. Like, oh my gosh, Jonathan Taylor may not get 10 touchdowns again. Well, I say that, but I think Miles Sanders had 10 touchdowns last year. But I don't know. Their offensive line didn't look that great, as good as it once did. But with Jonathan Taylor, you know, Alex, when you're watching this, you might very passionately disagree with me, but again, this is a guy that I'm not in love with. He's not going to catch passes from Anthony Richardson, I believe. So that lowers him, especially in the long term, because he is 24.3 years old. And that's about a year or 2 max, right when you want to start trading those older running backs, because everyone always says you want to be a year too early and not a year too late. So I'm just not a big fan of everything. And it's really all just has to do with the offense that they're probably going to be run. And Jonathan Taylor is probably going to be extremely run heavy. And I don't know how long he'll be able to keep that up. So, but he is still talented enough to where he is number 10, and he's going to be my number 10. But I think he does have to come back and rush for like at least 1,300 yards for him to not continuously fall back out of the ADP. And I do also think he needs to get like a 30 catch minimum. Like as much as I think he won't catch passes from Anthony Richardson, I'm lowering that minimum because I think if he is catching at least 30, he's talented enough to where he can still maintain that ADP and not fall out of your top 10 for your most valuable players under 25 years old or 25 years old and under. And then really quick before we end this video up, guys, is my honorable mention, Chris Olave. You've heard me mention him so many times. This guy is just an elite rookie season, and it got very much overshadowed by Garrett Wilson, which I guess is kind of understandable. He got overshadowed by Garrett Wilson in Ohio State as well. But he has 72 catches last year, 1,042 yards, 4 touchdowns, a 29.3 target share, 29 deep targets, 4th ranked in the NFL, 11 red zone targets, and 7 catches in the red zone, and 198.20 total fantasy points with 2 games missed. And that was all with Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston at quarterback, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I know we have Michael Thomas, Saints fans, that hopefully may be coming back, but honestly, I'm not getting my hopes up for that at all. I just wouldn't hold your breath on that. But if he is back, I think it actually may even help him even more, because Michael Thomas will be able to clog up that down below, like people call him slant boy, unfortunately. But we'll be able to clog up a lot of that attention down below by the line of scrimmage and be able to make people step up, while Chris Olave can go ahead and use that speed to be able to get behind those linebackers as they're stepping up to try to help with Michael Thomas. Because say what you want about the injuries, even when Michael Thomas was quote unquote healthy the last time he was on the field with the Saints, he looked elite. The guy is unstoppable whenever he's just too strong. Whenever you have him, like, you can be on his back and you have him like 20 yards, or really even, I don't even want to call him that slant boy stuff, but he's just such a strong player. As if the ball is anywhere in his vicinity, you're not taking it from him. Just such strong hands. Honestly, some of the strongest that we've probably seen in the NFL for the last few years. But Chris Olave is someone that I'm really high on. 22.9 years old, looked like a stud, and he just, honestly, I think he's a better route runner than like a Deshaun Jackson to me. Like, but he has that same deep threat ability, and I can't really think of like a specific comp right now, but he's someone that I really love. So these are all my top 10, well, I guess you could say my top 11 dynasty players, Cornerstone Dynasty players under 25 years old. Let me know what you think. If you disagree, if you agree, if there's somebody that I left out that you think should be in there, or if you just completely think I'm an idiot and this episode was horrible. No, I'm just kidding. Please don't be too rude. I'm all for like shitting on each other and making fun, but we're sensitive nowadays. No, but for a like and subscribe, let me know what you guys think. Hopefully we're gonna have Ben or Alex come back soon, and they're gonna be able to tell you some of their top players under 25 years old. Maybe we won't do a whole another episode to it, but we're definitely gonna let you guys get like a peek behind what they want. I'm just clearly the only one with my head on straight who doesn't have kids. So but yeah, like and subscribe one more time. Just want to make sure that you guys know that, and we appreciate you for listening in and helping us while we're growing the channel. So peace. Hope you guys enjoyed it.